All right, welcome to the Fantasy Football Last Call podcast. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, my co-host. Welcome yourself, dude. Go. Introduce yourself. Sorry, is what I would say. Welcome
I am
yourself.
Geoff Lambert of GoingForYou.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert77. Man, what's up?
Good day. We got to at least watch some football. It was not the prettiest day of football games, man. I mean, I guess it was. It was nice from a fantasy perspective for a lot of people, but pretty boring games. If you ask my honest opinion with it, a lot of blowouts and a lot of blowouts that we didn't really expect. And I guess we can jump right into these games here, man. And you can lead it off here. Yeah,
right here at the top here with the Packers beating the Bears 24-14. Rodgers, pretty pedestrian day, 7 for 23, 195, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, 13 for 76 on the ground, 4 for 34 and a touchdown through the air. Adams, another pedestrian day for him, 4 for 89. He didn't score. Lazard got a touchdown. On the other side, we got Justin Fields, 16 for 27. He went 6 for 43 on the ground. Khalil Herbert, the rookie running back, pretty decent day, 19 for 97, did catch 2 passes for 15 yards. Allen Robinson, 4 for 53, and Darnell Mooney finds pay dirt on 5 for 45 and 1 touchdown. And really the story I want to talk about here is Mr. Khalil Herbert, and what do we do with him next week when we assume we're going to have Damian Williams back in the mix here? Is Khalil Herbert startable, or are you going to think that they're both going to split the backfield on this one?
I think they will split the backfield a little bit more. However, I mean, we talked about this last week where we were kind of surprised that Khalil Herbert had more carries than Williams did, and he outperformed him in the long run. I'm a little biased. Go Hokies. But Khalil Herbert, to me, is a real deal, dude. This guy just hustles. He's a baller, man. The Bears have. It's a tough matchup, man. They got the Bucs next week, so that's gonna be a brutal run matchup. So it is gonna be tough. Granted, we have a very rough bye week next week, so I think both of these guys are this in week 9, like week 7, week 9 are like the two worst in my opinion. So these guys, I think, are both in play. I'm going to rank, in my opinion, Herbert ahead of Williams, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy has just performed when given the chance, and not that Williams hasn't, but Herbert's been slightly better.
Yeah, agreed. And I think if Herbert can get some of that passing down, I mean, I know he didn't catch many passes in college. He hasn't caught, I think he caught 2 passes today. He did catch a touchdown. I think they got called back, so that would have been a big change if he would have kept that touchdown. But if he can get some of that passing down work too, then I do think he's definitely viable. I think Williams, at least from what I can see on paper, is the better pass catcher. So he's a little bit more viable next week versus that Bucs defense. But yeah, I love Herbert. I called out Herbert on my DFS podcast last week, and
I called him a slam. He was so cheap this week too. I was like, he's like almost a slam dunk play. Like you almost, especially in cash, you had to play him.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's move to the next game here. We got the Bengals handling the Lions, the only team left that doesn't have a win. The Lions, 34-11. Burrow, 19 for 29, 271, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Mixon comes back this week and has a full workload, 18 for 94, plus 5 for 59 and a touchdown through the air. Chase, another monster game, didn't score. 4 for 97 though, is still pretty good. On the other side, we had Jared Goff with a pretty ugly day, 28 for 42, no touchdowns and an interception. Swift saved his day with a touchdown on 13 for 24 and a touch and 5 for 43 through the air. Hawkinson continues to be one of the top tight ends out there, 8 for 74. So the story I want to talk about is Mixon and his workload. I mean, they don't seem to care that this guy is off injured. I mean, it's like, just throw him out there, give him 25 plus touches a week.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah, it was a lot. I was actually pretty surprised at how much workload he got. Although P. Ryan was on the COVID list, so that had, I think, a little bit to do with it. They also had a gigantic lead Although you would also think with that big of a lead, they might pull back, but they didn't. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see if you roster him in fantasy. However, at the same time, it is a little concerning because he is injury prone. So you might have, with a big lead like this, maybe you wanted to see it scaled back a little bit so he's healthy the rest of the year. But I mean, hey, you'll take a big gain from him for sure. I wanted to say this. I tweeted out something earlier today, just kind of joking. Like, was Jamar Chase just like screwing with all of us? Like, he must be in a ton of fantasy leagues where he must have like drafted himself, going like, or wanted to draft himself, going, "Hey guys, I can't catch this ball. It doesn't have any stripes on it." Blah 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 blah. This dude is balling out, and granted, he didn't score today, but this guy looks amazing.
He definitely does. I mean, he definitely the real deal. That's for sure. I mean,
he trolled all of us, in my opinion.
Most definitely. Most definitely. One more guy I wanted to talk about really quick is Chris Evans, rookie. He came in and kind of spelled Mixon a little bit.
He looked all right. He looked all right.
Did look pretty good. I actually had him. I called out Herbert on my DFS show last week. Chris Evans was my call out this week, so I'm 2 for 2.
All right. Hey.
But yeah,
start tuning into the Go for Two podcast, man. Let's do it.
He caught a touchdown that looked really good. I mean, he dove into the end zone. Like, it was a nice.
Saw that
there. So yeah, it was. I'd keep an eye on him. You know, with Mixon's injuries, I know they still have some Pirine there, but
right,
Evans can be that sort of Gio Bernard type role, that pass catcher out of that backfield that they had for so long.
And Evans is he rookie or is he like a couple years in?
I thought he was a rookie. But
he is a rookie. He is a rookie. So yeah, I can see him getting a bigger role. You know, Pirine's he's just a guy. Let's be real. He is really just a guy. So if Evans is gonna flash, then I could see them maybe giving him a bit more work if he can keep it rolling like this.
Definitely. All right, let's move to another blowout game. The Colts beat the Texans 31-3. I think no surprises here. The Texans just really aren't a very good team. They don't got a lot of talent. Davis Mills, 29 for 43, 243, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mark Ingram just won't go away, 18 for 73. Brandon Cooks is probably the one guy in this team that if you have him, you're starting him each week, and that he went 9 for 89, so you're happy there. Carson Wentz on the other side didn't need to throw the ball that much, went 11 for 20, 223, and 2 touchdowns. JT had a monster game, 14 for 145 and 2 touchdowns. And T.Y. Hilton made a little bit of a showing here, 4 for 80. Unfortunately, ended up with an injury at the end of the game. Typical T.Y. Hilton here. But so what I want to know is Mr. Carson Wentz. He now has 2 back-to-back pretty decent fantasy games, pretty decent NFL games. Can you trust Carson Wentz going forward? I mean, maybe not as a QB1, but as a QB2 in a Superflex league?
Yeah, as a QB2 in a Superflex league, absolutely. This game was on red zone quite a bit because Indy was in the red zone a lot and they had the ball a lot. And the early games were kind of bleh for a while there. The weirdest thing, though, that I noticed, and unfortunately I can't see like first half, second half data quite yet. It takes me till at least tomorrow or Tuesday to get that data. Sorry, guys. It costs like thousands of dollars to get live data like that. I don't have that kind of money. So I just wait for the box scores to catch up and some of the sites that I do, shell out money for to get it. But I feel like Jonathan Taylor had like 1 or 2 rushes through like the middle of the second quarter, and they were dominating this game.
Yep.
I mean, there was no reason for him to not get any touches. And then it was like the second half, it was like, wait a minute. We have like one of the best running backs in the game, and we have a gigantic lead. Let's just hand him all the ball. And he took it like, 83 yards at one point? It was like, oh, no kidding. Yeah, I still to this day will never figure out what Frank Reich is doing. We're never going to. But yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz is safe-ish, QB2 in a Superflex league. He's got weapons, as long as these guys can stay healthy. But unfortunately, like you said, we got Hilton banged up at the end. We got Paris Campbell banged up in the beginning of the game. So now he's left with Pittman and Mo Alley Cox, and if he can use Hines and Taylor, fine. But he's now down 2 receivers possibly again, so it's going to hurt his. But he still wasn't efficient. I mean, 11 for 20 is not great.
Not great.
It was Houston, guys, so not good. So, I mean, I'm a little weary about him moving forward, but Superflex leagues and 2 QB leagues, fine.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. And like you mentioned, the Campbell injury and the Hilton injury. If you were the owner of Michael Pittman, you were pretty upset today because he didn't do anything because Campbell and Hilton were doing everything. But they're hurt now, so it's back to Michael Pittman again next week.
Right. As it should have been, man. Pittman's a baller, dude. Yeah. I like him a lot.
I love Pittman. I was buying him everywhere this offseason, so I'm loving his production right now. All right, let's move to another blowout. Rams 38, Giants 11. And it wasn't even that close, I don't believe. Rams probably could have put up like 50 on them easy. Stafford balled out 22 for 38, 251, 4 touchdowns and 1 pick. Henderson continues to be a monster, 21 for 78 on the ground and a touchdown, 2 for 29 in the air and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, I mean, we keep saying how long
he's back. After 1 week, he's back.
9 for 122 touchdowns. Higbee had a decent game for a tight end, 5 for 36. Woods scored as well on 2 for 31. On the other side, it's, Jones turned back into a pumpkin, 29 for 50, 51. He went 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. Devontae Booker, who was a popular waiver wire ad, had an game. He was 12 for 41 on the ground, 4 for 28 in the air. Shepard was the only one that did anything that's worth anything in fantasy on this side of the ball, with 10 for 76. Kadarius Toney, unfortunately, had a nice catch and then was out.
Got hurt immediately. Yeah, it stinks. And I apologize. I wrote down the wrong number for Kupp. It's actually 130. But yeah, honestly, that's where I want to go with this is Kupp and Woods. And we saw after last week, everybody was like, "Oh, Woods is back. And I think I was trying to tell people, like, you might want to sell high. Like, if people are really going to buy into this, you might want to sell high because I think that was a kind of forced 14 targets for him. And it obviously was again because he saw 5. And this was a blowout. So, like, they could have easily just figured out a way to get Woods some more passes. But everything went Kupp's way. 12 targets to 5 to 5 to 3. And that's Higbee, Woods, and then Henderson was 3. So, yeah, I'm all in the Kupp train. I don't know when it's going to slow down, but yeah, I mean, the New York Giants are going to be bad until they can get healthy, and who knows when it's going to get healthy. And I mean, the offensive line was just getting decimated today, and I think Jones is better than this, but there's nothing he can do with no weapons and no offensive line at the same time. So,
agreed. What are your thoughts on Henderson? You think he's a top 12 running back when he's healthy?
I do. I had him in number 10 today.
Yeah.
It's especially against a team like the Giants, but when they're going to get leads like this, and they will probably more often than not with that defense and this passing game, they'll get a couple touchdowns on the passing game and then just kind of lean in on teams like this. Henderson's going to get a lot of work, and there's no reason he shouldn't.
Agreed. I actually was kind of slow on him because I literally own 0 shares of him in fantasy, and I have yet to play him in DFS. So when he was top today, I was like, let me look into him and see how he's doing. I was like, okay, I could see why everyone's liking this guy.
I have him in like 2 different leagues, but it was just kind of random. I kind of went, I took like one running back early, and then there's a bunch of receivers in between, and then it was like, fine, I'll take Henderson. Why not? That's working out.
Definitely working out if you drafted him. All right, let's move to another game that actually it came out as a blowout as far as the score, but it was much closer than this for most of the game there. And then the Chiefs decided that, oh, wait a minute, we're the Kansas City Chiefs, and we just decided to pull them out. They beat the Washington football team 31-13. Mahomes monster day. He had 397, almost 400 yards to the air, two touchdowns, 2 picks. Darrell Williams, who was a popular waiver wire ad this week because of the CEH injury, 21 for 62, and had 2 touchdowns. Kelsey, 8 for 99. Tyreek Hill, 9 for 76 and a touchdown. Heineke, unfortunately, I know everybody was playing him in DFS. He was the cheap quarterback, supposed to be against a bad defense, just didn't show up. He had 182 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Gibson got hurt for a little while in this game, 10 for 44. McKissick had a good game, but I can't imagine anybody started McKissick in fantasy. 8 for 45 on the ground, 8 for 65 through the air, and RSJ, 4 for 58 and a touchdown.
Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, that one play that he had, the touchdown, that was
he was a dirt cheap tight end in DK still. So yeah,
He won't be next week. I can guarantee.
No, he shouldn't. I was shocked that he was still that cheap this week after last week. Even like he thought he would move up, but he didn't.
So the story here I want to talk about is Darrell Williams and the 21 carries that he received. I mean, the Chiefs aren't really known for running, and that's probably, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm going to guess it's pretty close to the most they've run, at least for one guy this season.
That's an interesting thought. It feels like it's been a while since they've run the ball that much. That would be an interesting stat to look up. I'll say this though, like this game, you said it was close, and score wise it was, but it didn't feel like it. Every time the red zone moved to this game, it just felt like Kansas City was in control of this game the entire time.
Turnovers.
Washington could not move the ball. There were turnovers on both sides of the ball. Look, Mahomes turned it over twice. I feel like Kansas City fumbled it once. So did Washington. And so turnovers were actually in favor of Washington. Nothing could work. Look, Mahomes, yardage-wise, fantasy points-wise, you're probably happy. His QBR was 51. It's not good. Heineke's was 28, so even worse, and we all expect that with the stats that you see. This is a weird one to analyze, in my opinion. I think it was just ugly on both sides. Despite you're gonna be happy if you had Kelsey and Hill and Darrell Williams and Mahomes from a fantasy perspective, but I think the concerns are still there for Kansas City, and if they play a better team, which. Who are they playing next week? I'm trying to pull up their schedule really, really quick. They play the Titans, so maybe not a better team. Then they get the Giants. So look, maybe you have to wait a couple weeks till they play the Packers. Yeah. And their defense isn't phenomenal either, but maybe we wait till then and they actually get a real threat to beat them. I think they're gonna, maybe come away here with a couple more wins, and people are just gonna be like, forget that they're struggling. Yep. But I do think that the concerns for this team are still there overall. It's very, three-headed monster here with Kelsey, Hill, and Mahomes, and then Darrell Williams or whoever is at running back kind of just falls in line and just gets the scraps, and is gonna have good games and bad games. That's kind of what CEH was doing.
Going to fall into the end zone a couple of times in those red
Exactly. Because the average of 3 yards per carry.
Yeah, it's not good.
If the touchdowns weren't there, then you don't give 2 craps about Darrell Williams.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's move to probably one of the best games of the early slate here. The Vikings take the Panthers in overtime, 34-28. Cousins has a monster game, 33 for 48, 378 and 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook comes back here, 29 for 140 and a touchdown. Thielen back to his old stuff after having a few games off there, 11 for 126 and a touchdown. Jefferson's the one that didn't really blow up today at 8 for 80, but he had plenty of targets. Still a decent game, didn't score. Darnold was pretty brutal. 17
2 in a row, guys.
207. Hubbard had a decent game, 60 for 61 and a touchdown. DJ Moore, you're okay with that, 5 for 73. But yeah, Darnold, he looked good at the end of the game when they were coming back there, when basically the game was just score as much as they can, as fast as they can to tie the game.
Right.
But for 3.5 quarters, he was brutal. Are you worried about the options there, the DJ Moore, and if Christian McCaffrey ever comes back, if Darnold continues to play this way?
I think if Christian McCaffrey can come back, I think it will spread this offense out a little bit more. DJ Moore he's gonna. I think overall he's gonna be fine because we know the target just share is gonna be there and it's gonna be phenomenal. 13 targets today is crazy. The crazy part about it, man, Robbie Anderson had 11 and just couldn't catch a thing.
Nothing.
He saw things. He was in off his face mask. It was in off his shoulder pads. You were like, what is going on, man? This guy's broken at this point. I don't know what's going on. It's such a difference between last year and this year. Sam Darnold, though, 17 for 41. Ugh. I know a few of them were dropped, but that's just what you want to hear something funny? Sam Darnold, 17 for 41. Remember what Heineke's QBR was? 28, right?
Right.
Sam Darnold's is 33.
Damn.
How? Like, how? That doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Darnold is going to be better, but it's going to be a few weeks, and we're going to need to see them, we're going to need to see them run the ball better. I mean, Hubbard was 3.8 yards per carry, not great. But nobody's respecting that run game right now, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
Agreed. About the other side of things, that Vikings offense, for all this talk in the offseason, how they're a run-heavy offense and they're not going to clip a lot of points and fade some of the receivers. I mean, Kirk Cousins has been pretty great. Thielen's been awesome. Jefferson's been awesome. I mean, is this something that's going to continue, you think, the rest of the season? You think these 4 players, including Dalvin Cook, are going to be every week starters?
Yeah, I really do. One of the reasons why is I think their defense is bad. And so, despite Carolina Panthers having a bad game, they were still in it. I mean, it went to overtime. So the Vikings offense is going to have to just push and push and push all game. And to where they might not. I mean, look, Kirk Cousins' QBR was 61. He put up monster stats and still wasn't good.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it from an NFL standpoint, it wasn't great. And we all know Cook is phenomenal. Thielen's the one that worries me the most, right? Like, we've seen Thielen do this, seems like year in and year out, right? He has like a monster, 8.5 to 9 weeks, and then it's just like, oh, I'm tired and I don't want to play anymore, and he disappears.
Yep.
So maybe trade him at the halfway point, but it's hard to trade him because he's balling out.
Yep.
But Jefferson, I think, is a real deal. But Osborne's fine. Funny story. I thanks to John Lepresto from Fantasy Six Pack, he talked me into starting Osborne over Gio Bernard this week in Scott Fish, and that's working out pretty nicely for me.
Yeah,
game-winning touchdown.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John.
We did have a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to talk to it now or wait.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, bring it in. I did not see it. I'm not used to getting questions here. So we'll bring it up here.
What's it? James Zoe? How do you pronounce that?
I'll just let you do that. You already butchered it. I'm not going to do it any worse.
So you think it's time to sell D-Hop? I think today he had 2 touchdowns, but he only had 3 targets. So that's not really a good.
Dude, in my opinion, it is hard to sell him because I'm not sure you're going to get proper value for him. I still think he's good. Even if it's just a touchdown dependent guy. I mean, if you can get top dollar, if you can get especially if you're running back desperate, which a lot of us are, if you can get a decent running back and then in a wide receiver 2 for him, maybe. But you have to be pretty stacked at receiver to give up somebody like D-Hop, in my opinion. What's your thoughts?
I think if you sell him, you need to get the quote-unquote D-Hop value. You can't, he's had an up and down season this year. I had him as my number 1 receiver coming into the season in redraft. That's not looking so good right now. But he's in a very high-scoring offense. He's still going to put up points. He may not put up the consistent points that we're used to seeing from D-Hop.
No.
So unless you can find someone willing to pay the D-Hop price for him, I think you just have to hold him at this point and, hope that Murray keeps looking for him in the end zone, because that's how he's saving his fancy stance right now, is getting those red zone targets.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, where do we leave off here? Ravens at Chargers, another blowout game. Ravens take this one 34-6. Very disappointing game. We thought that this would be a high-scoring affair. It was high-scoring, and it was 40 points, high-scoring on one side. The Ravens had 34, and the Chargers couldn't do nothing. Herbert struggled with only 195 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Eckler, really bad game, 6 for 7 and 4 for 48. Keenan Allen, 5 for 50. He actually led them in receiving yards, and I can tell you how bad this thing was. Brutal. Lamar Jackson is doing Lamar Jackson things, 19 for 27, 167, a touchdown, 8 for 51 on the ground. So he had a down game on the ground, believe it or not, at 51 yards. And then the 3 running backs, Freeman, Murray, and was it Le'Veon Bell, the other one that all scored today?
Right.
Yeah, they all each got a touchdown. And Mark Andrews is a tight end 1 for that little bit of struggling he had at the beginning of the season. He's back, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. I mean, really not a whole lot to take away from this game. I think it was just to chalk it up to a bad game for the Chargers. If you own the Chargers, you're starting them next week with no hesitation at all. And the Ravens right now, for all that talk of being conservative offenses, they got some pretty nice studs there in that offense with Marquise Brown showing out, and of course Mark Andrews. But the running backs, though, you don't know who to start each week if you're going to start any of them.
We had a lot of questions. Myself, Mike LaPlante, and Dylan Clemens from Fantasy Back do Sunday morning, start sit show, and we get a lot of questions about this Ravens running back core, and most of them, what we got this week was about Murray, and I was just like, it's impossible to trust. I'm sorry, guys, it really is. Like, and again, I know he got 44 and a touch, and he caught 2 for 12, and you're probably looking at him on your bench, and in most cases, and going, oh man, I sat almost 12 points on my bench, but last week, what did he get you? 3? It was terrible. It's impossible. And look, even this week, Freeman got 9 carries. Jackson got 8. Murray got 9. Bell got 8.
It's just all spread out.
Try to figure out which one of them is going to score every week. And you tell me, and I will hire you and pay you more than I pay myself, which, I don't pay myself, but I will pay you more than any other writer I do. But if you can predict the Ravens offense backfield better than me, then I will pay you more than I pay any other writer on my staff. Guaranteed. It's not going to happen, guys. This is not going to happen. And as far as the Chargers, man, like, I was utterly shocked at how ugly this team looked today. Yep. Maybe it's that West Coast to East Coast thing, man. 1 o'clock games on the East Coast for West Coast teams is not good. It hasn't been pretty in the past. There's been a lot of talk about that, and I was really shocked that this was a 1 o'clock game. I was actually hoping it was a 4 o'clock game because in our area, Washington and Baltimore were playing at the same time, and so they're both. But because Washington was playing an AFC team that was on the road, it somehow was on CBS, which makes no sense to me. And so they conflicted, and because it becomes a Washington game instead. So I didn't get to watch this game. I usually have 2 TVs going. I can't watch, the Ravens or Washington and Red Zone at the same time, but I couldn't do it. This game was atrocious, man. Like, it was just ugly. I know the Ravens defense is solid, but they're not this good.
Yeah,
this was just a down game all around, and kudos to the Ravens. They played phenomenal.
Yep, agreed, 100%. All right, let's move to the 4 p.m. games here.
Absolutely, man. Let's finish things out here. So we have the Cardinals and the Browns, and the Cardinals ran house here 37-14. We had Kyler Murray going 20 for 30 with 229 and 4 touchdowns. We had A.J. Green, 5 for 79 at a touch. We had Christian Kirk, 5 for 75 at a touch. And then, of course, we mentioned D-Hop already, 3 for 55 and 2 touchdowns. Not much on the ground here for them, but, you're loving it if you're Kyler and having these passing game options here. On the other side of the ball, man, bad game all around. It kind of expected, honestly, without Chubb. This offense struggles without him big time. Baker, 19 for 28, 234, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Kareem Hunt. Guys, he just doesn't live up to the billing without Chubb. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. I know everybody wanted to put him in like RB2, and I saw that a lot of places. I moved him to like RB6, and that was still already too high. 14 for 68. DPJ, damn it. I know. Yeah, thank you. 4 for 101 and 2 touchdowns. So, but nobody had this guy, so that's not really fantasy relevant, to be honest. OBJ was fine, 5 for 79, but, nobody was using him either, in my opinion. But
I speak for yourself. I had DPJ in one of my dynasty rosters that I'm rebuilding because I have nobody else to start.
Yeah, that's fine.
DPJ and Chris Evans were both starting on that team. That's how you have that.
Yikes. I'm guessing that's a dynasty team. Yes. Look, at the same time, though, we're looking at this Cleveland side here, and injuries are a big factor here. Baker had a shoulder injury early, came back in the game, but obviously wasn't the same. And Kareem Hunt had a calf injury midway through the game. He he struggled before that anyway. You know, what do we take away from this Cleveland team today, knowing that they had all these injuries?
Well, one thing with Baker, and I read it after the fact, it wasn't just a shoulder injury; it dislocated. So he came back into the game after a dislocated shoulder.
Yikes!
Those are one of those things that after the tomorrow it's going to hurt, really, really hurt. He's going to really feel it tomorrow. He probably had some adrenaline running today. He's able to come back into the game. So definitely, if he's out, you downgrade pretty much this entire offense, I think. And then Kareem Hunt with the calf injury, which a calf injury seems like a small thing, but if you've had a calf injury, it completely sucks.
Yep.
And it's very, very hard to heal up from those. So Kareem Hunt, if it is, a strained calf or whatever, he could be out for a little while.
I mean, Chubb is dealing with like the same thing.
Yep.
And they're talking it could be a multiple week injury.
Yep, 100%. So I don't even know. Was it
Dearness Johnson could be the guy? I mean, but it wasn't really today, so it's tough to say who's going to be the guy that takes over here for them.
There's a really good chance that you're not playing
carry.
Yeah, there's a really good chance you're not playing any Browns players next week. If Baker's out, if Chubb is out, if Hunt is out, pretty much avoid them altogether. I've
been avoiding everybody but the running game for a while anyway, so yeah, makes perfect sense to me. Next game here, we've got the Raiders and the Broncos. Raiders, man, coming out strong after the bad, publicity here. Yeah, email gate. I don't like to use gate. Sorry, man. I despise that word. But anyway, they came out strong, which is what I think we all really wanted to see. We wanted to see these players kind of come together and say, you know what, screw all this noise and just play football. And they did, man. 18 for 27, 344 yards and 2 touchdowns for Carr. Josh Jacobs played well, 16 for 53 and a touch. Drake went for 34 yards and a touchdown and caught 3 for 39 and a touch. So big game from him after being a huge down game for him last week where he really didn't see any work at all. Right. And then Ruggs was balling out today. At least caught a couple deep passes, 3 for 97 and a touchdown. Waller 5 for 59. Not exactly what you want to see from Waller, but hopefully we'll get a little bit more out of him later. That's out of ball. Teddy Bridgewater, 35 for 49, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. I think he fumbled too, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's not usual for Teddy. He's usually very protective of that ball. Noah Fant balled out 9 for 97 and a touchdown, and Cortland Sutton 8 for 94 and a touchdown as well. So go back to this, the Drake kind of coming back here and having a big game. Is this more of a thing to, a sign of things to come for him, or is this still going to be more of Josh Jacobs' backfield and Drake's just kind of the secondary piece? Yeah,
I think it's going to be just Jacobs and Drake's secondary piece. Drake's that change of pace, and he just happened to have those 2 touchdowns to make his stat line look so much better. I mean, the catch he made was a great catch for the touchdown. I mean, he looked really good, and a couple guys that I know that own Drake in a few leagues were super excited about it, but it's not really sustainable. It's not something that you're going to be trying to start. The one thing I'm really surprised too, it just in Derek Carr in general this year, is how much he's throwing the ball down the field. I mean, Ruggs, he's just chucking it up there, just saying, "Go get it." And that's not like Derek Carr. He's never been that kind of quarterback. But this year, I mean, last time I checked, as far as ADOT, I think Derek Carr was leading the league in ADOT. I don't know if he still is because he had a couple down games, but after this game, I think he's right back up there with those down the field passes. So loving that for Waller and for Ruggs and any of this passing game pieces here. He's not afraid to chuck the ball down the field anymore.
No, I completely agree with you. We talked about that early in the season where, and look, I took him in Scott Fish because, of course, in Scott Fish, we have the incompletion and completion, penalties, if you want to call it that. Like, we have those scoring points. And so those efficient quarterbacks, which Carr has been one of them for last week because he likes to dink and dunk. But this year he's like just trucking it down the field, and I'm getting kind of dinged because he's not completing a lot.
Yeah,
when you throw for almost 350 to almost 400 yards a game, fine, he makes it up for it. But the last couple of weeks when he wasn't hitting them and wasn't getting me the yardage, he's been almost a 0 for me, and he was negative one week, and I was like, you're killing me, bro. But it is an amazing how it's been just a complete different quarterback for him. I still think he needs to be more efficient for this team to win more consistently. I mean, 18 for 27 isn't going to get it done for them, I think. Their defense isn't that good.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And just going back on the whole Carr and efficiency thing, it's like if he could somehow dial it back and be efficient and then take his shots at a certain point, I mean,
right.
Then I think this offense is going to be a great offense for the rest of the season. But like you said, he had those games where he wasn't hitting those big plays, and all of a sudden he's no longer a viable quarterback, and all the offensive pieces are struggling. So let's see if he can figure it out as the season goes on here. On the other side of things, like you mentioned, Teddy Bridgewater, he's usually very efficient, doesn't turn the ball over. I think some of that was just game script. He was just forcing the ball down the field because they were down and had to try to come back and win this game. I think a few of them were just kind of sailed on him a little bit. So I wouldn't look too much into that. But, I mean, Fant is a beast. Sutton has been really good this year. So you can continue starting those guys. I was hoping that I'm hoping that Melvin Gordon was hurting out, but I was kind of hoping to see Javonte Williams get a full workload for once. But Melvin Gordon
had a good burst run there, but yeah, they just don't use him enough yet to trust him over a lot of guys, unfortunately, which sucks. He's so much better of a player.
I agree.
All right, to finish things up here, we had a much closer of a game than I think everybody expected. Cowboys and Pats, 35 Cowboys, 29 Pats. Dak went 36 for 51 for 445 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Zeke had 69 yards, 7 receptions for 50, which seems really high for him considering Pollard has seemed to be the guy that was getting all the passing work, but not so much today. Lamb went 9 for 149 and 2 touchdowns, and then Dalton Schultz still being a great tight end, guys, 5 for 79. Then on the Pats side, we had Mac Jones, 15 for 21. I'm guessing that's 290 yards for 2 touchdowns and a pick. I don't have the stat line up, but
I hope
we missed a digit. It's cool. 229 yards and then 2 touchdowns and a pick. Damian Harris, as much as I was worried about him coming in with kind of being banged up, 101 yards and a touchdown, so showed there. Stevenson fell into the end zone, but only 23 yards. And then Myers was 5 for 44 and
Bourne
75-yard touchdown, just a bomb. Like, he just burned everybody. It was ridiculous.
And poor Myers, he's never caught a touchdown his entire career.
He had one. It was called back by a holding call. It's just
brutal. Poor guy.
somebody has a voodoo doll. This guy somewhere. Like, I don't understand. AJ, is it you? Because you're like the voodoo doll king, man. Like. It's a joke that we have. Like, he always says something, and I'm like, no, AJ, you put the voodoo on him. Anyway, man, I think we all expected some heavy fantasy performances out of the Cowboys in this game. So I don't think any of these really shock anybody. I mean, they gather high, but were they outright like, oh my gosh? No, but I think what we need to talk about here is Dak got injured on the last play of the game, and it's a calf injury. And man, if he's out, what happens? I mean, we saw what happened last year.
Brutal. Let's hope that whatever it is, it's just he can get it fixed for the next game, because and calf injuries. Hopefully, it's not his plant leg either. If it's his other leg, he might be able to live with it. But if it's his plant leg that he throws off of, it's going to be really tough for him to come back from that, pretty quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I don't even know, man. I'm trying to think, not that I was an NFL quarterback, but I played a lot of intramural and flag football and stuff like that, even after college. And I'm trying to think, no matter which leg it is, man, that's going to be painful, because if it's your plant leg, that's what you step into, right? So that hurts. But if it's your back leg, that's what you push off of. Yeah. So no matter which one it is, that's going to be painful, and it's not going to be pretty no matter what happens. So that's going to be bad no matter what. You just have to hope it was just cramped up on him, or just a minor strain or something like that. But if it's that's something we're going to have to definitely keep an eye on. Who do they play next week? Oh, they play the Vikings. So I mean, winnable game, easily, and it is the Sunday. It is the Sunday night game. So that will, he doesn't get an extra day. If it was Monday, I was hoping that maybe they got like the Monday night game, he'd get an extra day. But yeah, no, not going to be the case. So, all right, man. So right now we've got the
barn burner game is still on.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's 17-7. The Seahawks scored. Alex Collins is balling out, man. 14 for 80 and a touch. Hey, there's something going on there. And actually, Seattle is down on the 3-yard line. Let's see what happens here. Ooh! Collins had a little nifty spin move. Almost got in, but they got him. But so he could score here real quick again. But nothing going in this passing game, unfortunately. I mean, Metcalf's leading the way with 4 catches for 37 yards. But yeah, it's not going to be looking good here with Geno Smith at under them. Oh, you know what? I think they just passed the ball to Will Disley for a touchdown. Yes, they did. My box score updated before my game did. So thanks, YouTube TV. But yeah, anyway, Will Disley scored. So I mean, Geno Smith, it's still not great. But the Pittsburgh can't put away the Seahawks without Geno Smith.
Yeah, that's
guys. Sorry, I'm sorry, Steelers fans.
No, you're not.
So,
no, you're not.
No, not really. I'm not even a Ravens fan. Not really. Anyway, all right. That's all I got for tonight. You got anything else to leave our watchers with?
Check out our show on Wednesday night, the Armchair Fantasy Show. We got some great guests coming up on the docket. You can find us everywhere: Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, wherever you find your stuff. And obviously, we're also syndicated in all major podcast networks. But yeah, that's all I got, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. These guys do fantastic stuff, and you guys are on our YouTube channel, hopefully, and so hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it big time. Good night, fellas. Have a good night.
See you.